Welcome to NFL Nexus, your home for deep dives into the strategy behind the game we all love. We all get caught up in the wins and losses on Sunday, right? The big plays, the last-second field goals. But the honest-to-goodness truth, championships are really built months before the season even starts, in the controlled chaos of the offseason. It's a massive, high-stakes chess match. But instead of kings and queens, you've got players, draft picks, and millions of dollars in salary cap space. It's all happening in the front office, not on the field. Today, we are putting the Denver Broncos under the microscope to try and decode that exact strategy, the tough calls, the sacrifices, and the brutal, cold math that goes into building a winning 53-man roster. Let's get into it. So, to really kick things off, I want to pose a question. It's a simple one, but it's at the very core of every single decision we're about to break down. In the brutal, hyper-competitive world of the NFL, what is actually harder than winning a game on any given Sunday? Think about it. It's a puzzle that keeps general managers and head coaches awake at night, staring at spreadsheets and whiteboards filled with names and numbers. And the answer to this question, well, that's where championships are truly born. And there it is. The answer is building the team that can win those games. It's this relentless, year-round grind of evaluating talent, navigating the salary cap, and trying to predict the future. This is where the foundation for a season is laid, long before the first kickoff in September. You have to understand, every single move, every free agent signed, every veteran player cut, every draft pick is a calculated bet. It's a gamble on what your team will look like not just next week, but next year and the year after that. And that brings us right to the heart of our explainer today, the Denver Broncos off-season puzzle. What the front office is staring at is basically a complex math problem with three massive and often conflicting variables. First, you've got the raw on-field performance of the players currently on your roster. Second, you have to consider the very specific needs of your team. What kind of players do you need to run your specific schemes? And third, looming over everything, is the unforgiving, ever-present reality of the NFL salary cap. It's a constant balancing act. You see, every single one of those 53 roster spots tells a story. There's a reason that player is there, a role they're meant to fill, and, of course, a price tag attached to them. So to really truly understand what the Broncos are trying to do, we're going to zoom in and look at a few of these stories. We'll examine a player who represents that difficult decision to try and upgrade a position, another who shows what hidden value looks like, and finally, a player whose story is all about one thing, the bottom line. All right, first up, the case for an upgrade. And for this, we're zeroing in on tight end Adam Trautman. His situation is just a classic NFL front office dilemma. I mean, this exact conversation is happening in every single team facility across the league about some player on their roster. And it all boils down to one incredibly tough question. Is good enough really good enough to get you where you want to go? Okay, so to really get the Trautman dilemma, you first have to understand exactly what the Broncos are looking for. They desperately need a true Y tight end. Now, this isn't just some big guy who can catch passes. A Y tight end is essentially a sixth offensive lineman who also has to be a legitimate threat as a receiver. It's a hybrid role. On one play, you need him to be physical enough to line up next to the tackle and seal the edge against a 280-pound defensive end in the run game. Then, on the very next snap, he's got to be athletic enough to run down the seam and create separation from a linebacker or safety. Finding a guy who truly excels at both of those things, man, it's incredibly difficult. But it's the absolute linchpin for the kind of physical, balanced offense that head coach Sean Payton wants to run. And this is exactly where the problem comes in. The Broncos asked Trautman to be that dual-threat Y tight end. But when you look at the film, the performance just didn't quite line up with the job description. The analysis we've seen paints a pretty clear picture. While they deployed him in that role, his blocking was, well, inconsistent at best. And when an analyst calls a player a liability in the run game, that's a huge red flag. It doesn't just mean his guy occasionally makes a tackle. No, it means a run play that was designed to get 5 yards gets stuffed for 1. It means the quarterback has a split second less to throw on a play-action pass. It creates a ripple of negative effects. And then, as a receiver, his numbers were fine, 20 catches. But in the NFL, fine is often the enemy of great, and teams that win championships are built on great. This quote from Yardbarker just gets right to the point. And that phrase, fly the Payton tree, that's the key. It's a direct reference to Trautman's long history with Sean Payton, dating all the way back to their time in New Orleans. He's a trusted guy, a player who knows the system inside and out. The quote acknowledges that. It recognizes the value of his experience and his contributions. But, and this is the big but, it also presents the cold, hard reality of the business.
At 30 years old, maybe it's just time for both the team and the player to move on and find a better fit for the future.
And right here, this is the debate that's probably happening inside the Broncos front office. It's a classic trade-off. On one side of the scale, you have all of these invaluable intangibles. He's a leader in the locker room. He knows the playbook backwards and forwards, which is a huge help for younger guys. He helped establish the very culture Sean Payton is trying to build. And believe me, those things are real, and they absolutely matter. But then you look at the other side of the scale and you see the hard facts from the game film, the inconsistent blocking, the just okay receiving stats. It forces the front office to wrestle with a tough, almost philosophical question. Where do you draw the line between a player's cultural importance and their actual on-field production? It's not an easy answer.
But here's where it gets interesting. Here's the twist. Coach Sean Payton himself, the guy who drafted Troutman, the guy who brought him over from New Orleans, has gone on the record and publicly called his blocking solid. Now, this isn't just a coach mindlessly backing his player. This is a very pointed statement of trust and loyalty. Payton is essentially telling the world, look, I know what the stats might say, I know what you think you see on tape, but I'm in the meeting rooms, I see his assignments, I see the work he puts in, and I trust him to do his job. It's a huge vote of confidence from the man who knows him best.
And yet, the folks who grind the tape say something completely different. The sources and analysis we've reviewed are pretty direct. They say it's actually pretty hard to find that solid blocking consistently on film. So this creates a fascinating debate, doesn't it? The classic coach versus the tape argument. Is Payton just protecting his guy in the media, which coaches do all the time? Is he maybe seeing some nuance in technique that outside analysts are missing? Or, and this is always a possibility, is this a case where a coach's personal loyalty and long history with a player might be clouding the objective reality of his performance? So who do you believe, the future Hall of Fame coach or the evidence on the film?
Okay, so let's shift gears. We just spent a lot of time looking at a player who might be costing the team more than his on-field production is worth. But what about the other side of that coin? What about a player whose value to the team is actually much, much higher than his salary? Let's talk about the backup quarterback, Jarrett Stidham, and why he represents a totally different but just as important piece of this whole roster puzzle.
So during the offseason, you probably saw the rumors swirling. Reports from major outlets like ESPN were linking Stidham to teams like the New York Jets, who are in desperate need of a competent backup quarterback. And hey, on the surface, it makes a ton of sense, right? A team sees the Broncos just used a first-round pick on a quarterback, and they think, aha, maybe their backup is on the trading block. But that's looking at it from the outside. When you dig into the actual strategic value that Stidham provides to the Broncos, you start to realize the trade is probably not going to happen. So why would Denver just ignore those trade calls? Well, let's look at the facts here. Remember at the end of last season when Russell Wilson was benched? Stidham was thrown into a really tough spot, and honestly, he played well. He showed he could command the offense and move the team down the field. That performance earned him a ton of trust from a very demanding coach in Sean Payton, and that trust is also absolutely critical for the development of their rookie quarterback, Bo Nix. Stidham gives them a stable, reliable veteran presence in the QB room. He can mentor Nix without being a long-term threat to his job. That's a perfect environment. But you want to know the real clincher, the number one reason he's not going anywhere? It's the money.
Just look at that number for a second. In today's NFL, where top-tier backup quarterbacks can easily make over $10, even $15 million a year, getting a guy your head coach trusts, a guy with starting experience, for a base salary just under $6 million, that is an absolute steal. This is the very definition of value in the NFL. It's not just about how good a player is. It's about how good they are relative to their cost. Jarrett Stidham provides stability at the most important position in all of sports, and he does it without putting a big dent in the salary cap.
Okay, so this brings us to the next logical step in this whole team-building process. If you're deciding to keep a cost-effective player because he's such a good value, that implies you need to save money somewhere else. So where do you look to make a big move to free up some serious cash? Well, the answer isn't always on the bench with the backups. Sometimes you have to look right at your starting lineup. And that brings us to the final and, frankly, most brutal part of the roster puzzle, the salary cap casualty. And for this, we're looking at starting left guard Ben Powers. Now, let's be crystal clear about something. This has nothing to do with him being a bad player. This is purely about the numbers on a spreadsheet. It's a cold, calculated business decision that every single team in the NFL is eventually forced to make.
This is such a critical lesson to understand about the modern NFL. The most impactful decisions a team makes in the offseason are very often driven by an Excel spreadsheet, not just the depth chart on a whiteboard. Here's the reality. A pretty good player on an enormous contract can sometimes be worse for your team's overall health than an average player on a cheap deal. Why? Because that one giant contract prevents you from signing 2 or 3 other players to fix other holes on your roster.
It's the harsh, unsentimental business of football. And here it is. This is the number that changes the entire conversation. In 2026, Ben Powers is scheduled to count for over $18 million against the salary cap. Remember Stidham's manageable $6 million deal? Well, this is the polar opposite. Just for context, that's elite, top-of-the-market money for an offensive guard. In the world of the NFL salary cap, a number that big on a spreadsheet is like a giant, flashing neon sign. It puts a target on your back, and it doesn't matter how well you play. A general manager sees that number, and they don't just see a good player. They see an opportunity to reallocate a massive amount of resources. So let's break down the cold, hard math of the NFL. By trading Powers after a specific date, June 1st, the Broncos could instantly free up over $12.7 million in cap space for that year. Now, they'd still have to account for that $5.4 million in dead money. Think of dead money like this. It's the guaranteed bonus money you've already paid a player, and you have to account for it against your team's budget even after he's on another team. A post-June 1 trade is just a fancy accounting trick that lets the team spread that dead money charge over 2 seasons instead of taking it all in 1 year. This makes the immediate savings much, much bigger. And that savings, that $12.7 million, that's a weapon. Think about what a GM can do with that cash. That's enough to sign multiple solid veterans to fill other holes, like, for instance, a brand new Y tight end. See how it all connects?
Okay, so let's take a step back and put all these different puzzle pieces together. We've looked at the tough, performance-based decision with Adam Troutman. We've seen the smart, value-based logic for keeping Jarrett Stidham. And we've broken down the purely financial case for potentially moving on from Ben Powers. This is it. This is the complex, interwoven, and fascinating world of building an NFL roster.
So what we've really done today is uncover the blueprint for modern team building in the NFL. Step 1, it all starts with evaluating talent. And you're not just asking, is this guy a good football player? You have to ask, is he a good fit for our specific system? Step 2, you have to precisely define what you need. What exactly does a Y tight end need to do in Sean Payton's offense? Step 3, then you break out the spreadsheets. You have to analyze the financial reality of every single contract, now and in the future. And only then, after all that work is done, can you get to step 4, making these incredibly tough, calculated decisions that will literally shape the future of your franchise.
You know, if there's one thing I really want you to take away from this whole explainer, it's this. No roster decision ever happens in a vacuum. It is all connected. It's like a giant set of dominoes. The money you could potentially save by trading Ben Powers is the very same money you could then use to sign a better blocking tight end to upgrade over Adam Troutman. And if you upgrade that tight end position, it probably improves your running game, which in turn takes a whole lot of pressure off your rookie quarterback. See? Every single move sends a ripple effect across the entire team. It's one giant interconnected puzzle of talent, scheme, and money. So, as we continue to watch the Broncos navigate the rest of the offseason, the big question remains, how will their front office keep managing this incredibly delicate balancing act? Every choice they make, weighing on-field talent against specific scheme roles, against the cold, hard realities of the salary cap. All of it will ultimately determine how quickly they can get back to being a contender. It's a puzzle with no easy answers, and we'll be here tracking every single move. So what do you think? What's the Broncos' biggest priority right now? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so let us know down in the comments below. We genuinely read every single one. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown and you want more deep dives into the strategy of the game, do us a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe to NFL Nexus. It really, truly helps the channel grow. Oh, and one last thing. If you're looking for a fun way to support what we do, check out the link in the description or the QR code on your screen for our official NFL Nexus coloring books. They are perfect for kids, grandkids, and hey, even for adults looking to unwind. Thanks so much for watching.